Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Politics Now. We're talking about modern politics in modern America. And today, we're going to be looking at how Biden is not doing very well when it comes to the 2024 election. And Trump not only winning the election, but winning the popular vote is now a real possibility and also a pretty probable possibility. So, yeah, let's get into that. So, Biden, he's not doing too great now. He has been having a rough time in the polls. General election, when Democrats, ever since 2008, they've generally been pretty good in the polls. They've generally been in high single digits, or at the worst, they've been in middling single digits. I think the worst that they've reached is about maybe 3 points, or Trump being up for 2 weeks. But outside of that, they've been doing pretty well in the polls. Biden hasn't had that same thing at all. He has had a constant fight with Trump over who is winning the popular poll. And when it comes to the general election, it's also still not really great because Trump was up and then Biden and then Trump and then Biden. It's a constant tug of war. And looking at the polls right now, if there's another poll that's not Biden plus 6 again, like this Yahoo News poll, which yeah, that's pretty much the only thing keeping Biden on top of Trump. If there's a tie or hell, even a Trump plus 1 or Trump plus 2 poll, Trump is going to go up and he's going to have control over the polls for a little bit, maybe until Biden retakes it. But even Biden at his best point couldn't even beat Biden at his worst point in 2020, which, given the fact that he barely won in a lot of these states, and when it was 2020, he was winning by under 1% in a lot of these states. I'm talking Wisconsin, Arizona, Georgia, Pennsylvania. All of these were under 1%, and he barely won them. So, given the fact that at that rate he was at about 7 points, and now he's only up zero point 0.4 points, which the only thing saving him right now is the Yahoo News poll. Yeah, it's generally not looking too good for Biden. And then you go to his popularity rating. Biden's popularity rating is garbage. He has always been overwhelmingly disapproved, and even at his best point, ever since the Afghan withdrawal, he's been in maybe high low single digits, but it's mostly been above 10%, where it's mostly above a 10-point disparity. And usually his disapproval rating is about 55%, and his approval rating is at about maybe 41 on a good day. But most of the time it's at 40 or 41 or 42. It's generally around the 40s. Sometimes it goes below 40, but generally it's been stagnating, and everyone is still very disapproving of Biden, even a lot of Democrats, which, given the fact that you're trying to run for re-election against a former president who has a very, very strong hold on his voter base, and his voter base just so happened to populate a majority of these swing states, yeah, that's not going too well for you. And if Biden is overwhelmingly disapproved and these trends continue, Biden, you're going to have a really hard time at winning the presidency, because you can't generally win when you have a disapproval rating this garbage. Like, this is a disapproval rating on par with Jimmy Carter. And last time I checked, Jimmy Carter lost by quite a bit. And looking at the polls, he seriously has some really good competition, and he is not doing great enough to match that. Because Trump, he's pulling out all the stops. He's doing the 2016 thing where he's pulling out all of the special tricks in his bag, where he is using everything to win this election. Winning this election is very important to him, so he's going to throw everything he's got to win the election. And Biden, he's mostly been staying silent and just hiding in his basement, or when he does actually talk about it, it's not really affecting anything. If anything, it just makes Trump more popular. You have the indictments, which, yeah, those are likely to get dropped, and really they've only helped Trump and increased his popularity with a lot of Republicans and a lot of independents, and even some Democrat voters. And just looking at Trump and looking at all the crap that he's had to deal with and comparing it to Biden, where pretty much his entire presidency has been memed to oblivion, where everything that he says becomes a trending video on YouTube where it gets memed until the new thing comes up where he says something else that's stupid, or he sounds like he needs to go in a nursing home, or he messes up the teleprompter. His presidency has been one of utter failure and being memed into oblivion. And just given that fact, and given the fact that his popularity rating is in the gutter, really he's going to have a very, very tough fight at winning. And he has to focus on three parts of winning re-election, because Trump, he has a lot of these sections where if you want to win a presidential election, you need to have these. And Trump, he has a lot of these where he has strong support among his base, he has strong support among independents, and he has regional appeal in the Midwest, which is a very important place to win. And Biden, he doesn't really have any appeal anywhere because he's from Delaware, and I mean, Democrats are going to win New England either way, and they're especially going to win Delaware, so that doesn't really help at all. He really doesn't have any support among independents because a lot of independents don't like Biden, and he's also really, really old, and a lot of people don't really like that because he gaffes every single 5 seconds, and that ends up being a trending story for the entire day. So you're going to have to deal with that. And also, if he debates Trump, which, yeah, he's probably going to be forced to debate at least once just to prove that, hey, I'm not actually a, elderly man who can barely function and I can actually debate. Well, once he gets on there, he's going to completely collapse, and that's not really going to help him in terms of the general election, because if it's already this close in the polls and in the actual election, places like CNN, which, yeah, they're not exactly the most Trump friendly, and they're especially not the most Republican friendly. They published a poll recently where he's up 1 point. Where usually, if this was like 2016 or 2020, if Biden still had a lot of support and it wasn't so evident that he's overwhelmingly disapproved and is going to have a tough time winning, CNN would have him up like 6 points, like Yahoo News. Yahoo News is basically just taking over the role that CNN used to have, where they published extremely Democrat friendly polls to sort of bump them up in the polls. But if CNN is saying that Trump is winning in the polls, that begs to the question, are they actually modifying it to be towards Biden's advantage, where Trump has more of a lead? Because it's not like CNN hasn't done that at all. And Wall Street Journal, that's another one that isn't exactly Trump friendly. It's a tie. And you have a lot of these places where they're not generally Trump friendly, where they are publishing polls that are either ties or Trump plus one or two or even three. So if you have that and you have a extreme Trump swing where Biden can barely get above 1 point on Trump and is losing for a large majority of the polling, well, how is he going to win his voter base? Because his voter base also doesn't like him. You have the ethnic minorities, religious minorities, women, and young voters. And when it especially comes to young voters, he is not doing that well. And especially boys. Young men are overwhelmingly turning conservative, and they are generally trending towards the right, where if Trump is able to harness this and is able to use it to its fullest extent, he can probably steal a large part of the young vote, and especially the young male vote, because if he can use that, he is having a much easier time at winning a lot of these swing states, which Biden, he doesn't really have. And you see these polls, and it paints a grim picture. In 2016, a election that Trump won, it was pretty close between liberal and conservative, and now the gap is just so wide, and generally young men, they're going to trend more conservative. And if Trump manages to harness that, it is going to be extremely hard for Biden to do that. And then you pair it with with women, young women, you generally have the same story, which Biden, he's not really appealing to young women at all, especially a lot of liberal young women, because when it comes to the Democrat voter base, they generally want to pick someone else besides Biden because either they don't believe that Biden can win or they just don't like Biden. So you have a lot of these Democrat voters who generally would vote for the Democrat candidate on a normal year, but since it's Biden and Biden is likely to be the nominee for the Democrat Party, well, I don't really expect them to vote, or they're going to vote for one of these third parties, which that's another thing that's going to hurt Biden is the third parties. The third parties are the Green Party, the No Labels, and the Libertarians. Those are the big third parties. And the Libertarians, they're not really exactly putting up much of a fight. They have a candidate that uh, no one is really voting for and no one really likes. But the Green Party, they're pulling out all the stops. They want to get to 5%, and they are picking a relatively popular candidate, which, given the fact that the Green Party and the No Labels generally swing towards the left and generally appeal to Democrat voters, well, they're definitely going to steal a big chunk of that vote, which that vote is going to be crucial to winning in a lot of these states, especially Michigan. If you factor in the third parties in Michigan, and generally it would lean towards Biden because if you take out the third parties, it's still a tough fight, but Biden is up in the polls there. If you add in the third parties, Trump is up. And if that is true, if we held the election today, Trump would win Michigan, and he would win it by pretty slim margins, but those third parties would help him win. So if you are trying to win in a lot of these swing states and you have everything going against you, where you are losing the polling, your base doesn't even like you, and independents don't even like you, where you have a popularity rating on par with Jimmy Carter, how are you expecting to win? Because if you can't even win over your base, and especially if you can't win over independents, you're going to have a tough time at winning. And Trump, he's winning over independents and he has a strong support from his base. It is still going to be a very close election, but still, Biden, he just has so many disadvantages that Trump winning not only the general election, but the popular vote, that is a serious possibility, and it is becoming more likely the farther we go along. And if we receive new polling and a lot of old polls that have Biden up by ridiculous margins, I'm looking at the Yahoo News poll, if those get thrown out and new polling comes out where it's Trump up or it's a tie, well, you're going to see the polling change quite a bit because Trump is going to be up by 1 or 2 points. And given the trends, I don't really expect that to change that much. Where you're going to have a tough election, but Biden, he just has everything working against him, and he's going to have to navigate that if he wants to win. So, yeah. If you think Trump could win, leave them in the comments below. If you think Biden can win, leave them in the comments below. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.